Good evening, Jonathan Paula with you again here on the Movie Night channel to bring you some box office predictions for summer 2024. That starts this weekend with the release of The Fall Guy and goes until Labor Day. I'm going to throw out some predictions based mostly on gut feeling and a little bit of prognosticating, looking at comps and other movies in other franchises. I think of my top 10 predictions, all but one are part of an established franchise. That is the name of the game for Hollywood these days, is milking what works, right? So I'm going to go down from my number one prediction, which I think is probably the least interesting, to my number 10 pick. And I'll also throw out three wild cards as well that I feel less confident about. And if this format sounds familiar, it's because it's exactly what we do over on the Sift Pop podcast that I guest host on about once a month. And on the most recent episode, I sat down with Alice, Andrew, and Aaron, and we talked about box office 2024 predictions for this summer. It's a great episode. I would definitely encourage you to listen to the full podcast. First link in the description below. But for those that just want to hear my picks and maybe dive a little deeper into my thoughts and not hear anybody else's, that's what this video is for. So I thought I would double dip. I already did the research. I already did some of the Wikipediaing and the box office mojoing. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at my top pick, what I think will make the most money this summer. And not really any big surprise here. I think it's really one of two choices. And I went with Deadpool and Wolverine, the first, last, and only Marvel release for the entire calendar year. And it looks to be a big one. I know everyone has been waiting for the X-Men to finally become part of the MCU. We've all been waiting to see how an R-rated Deadpool will work in the Disney framework. We're going to get that on July 26th. I'm really excited. This is one of my most anticipated features of the year. And I think while superhero and comic book fatigue is very real, the fact that we're only getting one high-profile release from Marvel this July is probably good. And it seems like a lot of the other movies are kind of giving it space, so it should have a few weekends basically all to itself. I think this is going to win this summer easily. I'm predicting 380, maybe 400 million domestic cum. So, I don't know, write that down on your notepad and then you can come back and gloat at how badly I was wrong at that number in 5 months' time. Or maybe I was close and it actually ends up landing around 400 million. In past years, 400 million would not have won the summer, let alone the year domestically. But this seems like a depressed year, and I don't think we're going to have any like blowout billion-dollar smash hits like last year we had with Barbie and almost with Oppenheimer. I think this year it's going to be a bit depressed, and for better or worse. My number two pick for the movie I think will do the second most money this summer, and I'm changing this pick slightly from what I said on the Sift Pop podcast. I'm going to go with Inside Out 2. This one drops on June 14th, so just about 6 weeks from now. The last Inside Out movie is one of my absolute favorite Pixar movies. I actually have my little anger doll right over here on the corner of my desk. Clang, clang, smash it. I've got to knock everything over. I love this movie. I love these characters. I'm so excited. This, of all the properties on the calendar this year, this one felt to me like the most obvious choice to mine for a sequel. There are so many possibilities with that concept of feelings with feelings and going inside your head and exploring Riley as a teenager and going through adolescence. So excited for this one. And historically, Pixar sequels have just been huge hits. Incredibles 2 made like 600 million domestic. Finding Dory made over $500 million. I don't know that this is going to do quite that well, but I'm predicting around 360 million domestic. And I'm really excited for it. I'm going to be taking my girls to it, and I know they're looking forward to it as well. In the bronze medal position for summer 2024, I have Despicable Me 4. This one drops on July 3rd, July 4th weekend. I think based on the rest of these movies, and I don't love them really, but they do well, especially with the Gen Z. I mean, with Rise of Gru a couple years ago, everyone was dressing up as tuxedos. It became a bit of a meme. It became a bit of a movement to go and see this with your boys. Maybe that lightning will strike twice, and this will have a good turnout. I'm predicting this will net around $330 million domestic. I don't know that I will be seeing it until it gets out on video, but this is a popular franchise. Illumination has, a surefire winner on its hands anytime they roll out Steve Carell and the little yellow guys. Fourth highest grossing movie. I'm taking a bit of a flyer on this one. Twisters. The long-awaited, maybe not even awaited, just long gestating, that's a good word. The long gestating sequel to the 1996 hit Twister. We have Twisters. You put a $S at the end of this thing like Jim Cameron did with Aliens. I'm predicting this will make around $250 million when it releases on July 19th. Oh, we don't have any of the returning actors or potentially even plot lines from the 1996 original, but that film was second for the entire year behind Independence Day. It made a boatload of money. And starring in Twisters this summer is Glenn Powell, who is red hot right now. He is a big commodity in Hollywood. I think he's talented, he's handsome, he's charming. I think coming off the success of Top Gun Maverick and Anyone But You, I could see this doing big numbers, especially if it's good. Because I think people want to see a good disaster film again. And we haven't had like a big budget, just smash and glass and explosion experience in a while. And this is the kind of thing I think people are going to tune out to see, especially in the dead of summer. It's opening right before Deadpool and Wolverine, so that I think is the only strike against it, is it's not going to have any legs. If it doesn't do great that opening weekend, it's going to lose a bunch of theaters that very next weekend. My fifth prediction for summer 2024 is Bad Boys Ride or Die, which obviously should have been called Bad Boys for Life, but they gave that title to the third movie. That came out just before COVID in 2020, and it won the year. That was the highest grossing American film of all of 2020. It's hard to believe because it came out in January and then the world shut down a couple months later, but that had made over $200 million domestic. I think this one could do really well in a more favorable summer position. This one comes out on June 7th. I'm predicting around $200, maybe $210 million domestic. I don't know how to feel about Will Smith after that incident. I'm willing to kind of overlook it and give his movies a chance. But will everybody? I feel like there's a non-zero percentage of the audience that's going to be like, I don't like him anymore. He rubs me the wrong way. And they might pass on this. But you get Martin Lawrence and Will Smith together, and it's usually a pretty good time. My sixth pick is A Quiet Place Day One, a prequel set in that world that John Krasinski set up with his wife Emily Blunt a few years ago. Really love the first two installments. I'm excited to see where this spin-off prequel takes things. I think it'll make around 180, 185 million, enough for sixth place, and maybe probably enough to keep the franchise going, but I don't think it's going to like break out huge in a way that people might. And it's also very possible that this could totally flop because it does not have Emily Blunt or the other characters in it. It's a completely new set of characters. And yes, Lupita Nyong'o is very talented. She's an Oscar winner. She could really make this sequel work. I'm sure she will. But spin-offs are definitely dicier than direct sequels. So we'll have to wait and see. Seventh, I'm predicting Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. Speaking of prequels, recasting Charlize Theron's character with Anna Taylor-Joy. Chris Hemsworth is in this, but George Miller's directing again. And I think when he's behind the lens, you're going to have a great time. Now, believe it or not, as much as we all love Mad Max Fury Road, it did not do huge numbers at the box office when it came out May, whatever it was, like 10 years ago. 2015, right? It was 9 years ago. I'm predicting this will grab around $165 million, which should be enough for the seventh place spot when it releases on May 24th, which is right around Memorial Day weekend. I'm excited for this. I'm going to see it that opening weekend, but I don't think it's going to do huge numbers. Seventh place is, I think, fitting for it. Speaking of big explosions, The Fall Guy is what I'm predicting in the 8th spot. This one I have pegged at $145 million. This comes out this weekend, right? This comes out on May 2nd. Emily Blunt, Ryan Gosling, two of the most charming and attractive people on the planet right now. They can do no wrong. I'm super excited to see this. Got to take my wife on a date movie as soon as we have a night off from the girls. I can't wait to see it. I know the early reviews are coming in, and most people seem to really enjoy it for what it is, sort of a classic throwback to action rom-coms. And it has basically all of May kind of by itself, at least in its demographic. And I think it's going to have really good legs and hold well into June. So it can build up, even though it's a brand new IP, I think it can probably do pretty solid numbers. In the 9th spot is where I'm putting the 10th entry of the Planet of the Apes franchise, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. That comes out right after The Fall Guy on May 10th. I think this is probably the only competition those movies have is each other. I can't wait for this. I love the Apes franchise since I was a kid, and I was watching the Charlton Heston originals, and then we had the Tim Burton remake, which I kind of enjoyed as a teenager, and looking back in hindsight, it's obviously flawed, but it's okay. And then, obviously, the reboot trilogy from 10, 11 years ago has been so good. Rise and Dawn and War of the Apes, all those weirdly mistitled movies where the name probably should have applied to the one next to it. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes comes out on May 10th. Really excited for this. I'm predicting it'll make around $130 million. And then the second, I was wrong, I misspoke at the beginning, the second non-franchise film in my top 10 is If, Imaginary Friends, another Ryan Reynolds vehicle. This one comes out May 17th, just a few weeks away. I'm predicting this will make around $110 million. I think it'll be a good live-action, family-friendly adventure. We don't get enough of these, right? I sat down with my kids a couple weeks ago and watched Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. We don't make movies like that anymore. Like PG-rated family outings where like crazy stuff happens to a family and it's live action. But speaking of family-friendly entertainment, one of my wildcard picks is Harold and the Purple Crayon. This comes out on August 2nd, so towards the end of the summer. But it's based on a hugely popular and well-known children's book. I've read it to my kids. They enjoy it. I don't really get the point of putting absolutely a grown adult man-child Zachary Levi as the Harold. Like, wait, you couldn't get a kid for this? It seems weird. I don't know. But it's based on a kid's book. I think it could do really well, especially since, again, August is wide open. There is no other family programming in that entire month. So unless you're going to take your kids to see The Crow or Alien Romulus, I think this could do well with that demographic. And remember, every time a family movie comes out, you got to multiply the gross by 4, because I'm not going alone. I'm bringing my wife and 2 kids as well, and so a lot of other dads. And that adds up for sure. My next wild card pick, speaking of family movies, is the Garfield movie. This comes out on May 24th. I'm predicting this will gross around $90 million domestic. And this is a huge question mark for me, because do people care about the orange cat that hates Mondays and loves lasagna? Does anyone really know about this IP? It's been so dormant for so long, and people don't even understand the concept of the Sunday funnies anymore. Like, that's such a foreign, bygone, like newspapers, funnies, comic, like what? But Garfield's name does have a certain cachet. Maybe it's the kind of thing grandparents will take their grandchildren to. But again, it's at a point in the summer where it might have a couple weeks by itself and maybe people will go see it. Or not. This might be one of those IPs that people just don't care about anymore. And my last wild card pick for summer 2024 is a movie I'm really excited to see. Part 1 of Kevin Costner's Horizon, an American Saga. This comes out on June 28th. Right opposite A Quiet Place Day 1 and right before Despicable Me 4. So this will be a crowded couple of weeks, but Kevin Costner is aiming at a much different demographic. I mean, he is huge with the boomers and the grandparents I spoke of, right? They love Yellowstone. They love Kevin Costner. And this guy has a great track record. The last Western he did, Open Range, was excellent. The one before that was Oscar winner Dances with Wolves, which I will contend deserved the win over Goodfellas. I'm really excited for this. The fact that he's releasing 2 different feature-length movies just 6 weeks apart, the first on June 28th and then part 2 in mid-August, is incredible. I love that concept. No one has ever done that before. The Matrix, Back to the Future, Harry Potter, those all came out 6 months or a year apart. He's doing this 6 weeks apart. Can't wait for that. I'm predicting, though, all that being said, and my own personal excitement aside, $80 million domestic is probably where this part 1 tops out. And I'm guessing part 2 will probably do a little bit worse than that, like maybe 60 or 70 million. Those are my top 13 picks. And to see them all at a quick glance, again, here is the full scorecard. My predictions on the left-hand side of your screen, and then the full content calendar for summer 2024 on the right. So yeah, one more time from the top, I'm predicting Deadpool and Wolverine, 380 million. Inside Out, Despicable Me 4, Twisters, Bad Boys, Ride or Die, A Quiet Place Day 1, Furiosa, Mad Max Saga, The Fall Guy, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, If, Harold and the Purple Crayon, The Garfield Movie, and Horizon, an American Saga, Chapter 1. A lot of mouthful titles there, right? I think Twisters is the... Twisters and If. We need more movie titles that are just simple and succinct. So yeah, feel free to screenshot this, save it for October, and you can come back and see how absolutely dog shit terrible and incorrect I was. But this is entirely for fun, just entertainment purposes only. I do not pretend to be an expert on the box office predictions. I do watch a lot of Dan Myrtle. Want to give him a shout out. His channel is fantastic. He does the best box office breakdown on this website by a country mile. I haven't seen his predictions yet for this summer. Hopefully I got somewhere close, because he's had pretty good accuracy in the past. Speaking of which, last year when we did the SIFT Pop predictions, I placed 3rd out of 3. We tied, Andrew and I, for last place. So I'm disqualifying my opinion up front. This is what I think could happen, and I absolutely believe I could be very correct. I could go for 10 for 10, but I'm also very aware that I could go I don't want to say 0 for 10, because like of these 10 movies, I feel like 8 or 9 of them are absolutely going to be in the top 10. It's just, what's the order going to be? Like last year, I thought Barbie would be a top 10 movie. I thought it would be 9th, and it was 1st. So there's always the possibility for an absolutely like wild run that we don't see. There's also the possibility a film like The Sound of Freedom that no one had even thought of or looked at shoots up the chart and does huge numbers completely out of nowhere. This is what I'm picking. I would love to hear your thoughts on these predictions in the comments below. Do you think I'm totally off base? Do you think some of these picks are accurate? What are your own picks? What are you most looking forward to this summer? And what do you think is actually going to win this summer? For me, it's kind of the same answer, right? I'm most looking forward to Deadpool and Wolverine, and I do think that is going to win the whole summer. But every movie on here, I'm stoked to check out. I really want to see Twisters. I'm really excited for Inside Out 2. The Fall Guy, I'm going to probably see that next week. I can't wait. The only one I'm not excited for here is Garfield and Despicable Me 4. Those are the only two I can kind of just, I don't care. But the rest, I'm going to go, maybe with my family, maybe alone. Looking forward to it. Thanks again for watching and listening. My name is Jonathan, and I hope to see you next time.